And good evening. Welcome back to Beef O'Brady's here in Stark tonight. It's episode number 2 of the North Florida Football Gridiron Report. This is the high school football talk report. College will be coming up at 9 o'clock. But we'll be here for the next hour to look back at week 1 of high school football for FHSA schools and take a look ahead to week 2, which starts tomorrow night with games in the area. With Corey Davis, I'm Marty Pallman tonight here for Beef O'Brady's. And Corey, pretty good first week. I don't know if we had a whole lot of surprises. Maybe a couple in Jacksonville, but
mainly it was the weather. The weather won Friday night because we had several games, start really late or end really late, or in some cases may have not finished. But for the second straight Friday night, we've had weather issues.
Not as much I thought as the week before, but you're right. There were some of those as well, it's funny because last week we talked about the SSAA schools getting going. And one game that was canceled the week before, and it was Oak Hall and Bell. They did not end up making it up. Well, the same thing happened to Oak Hall last week. They started their game Thursday against Bronson. They played literally one drive. Oak Hall scored a touchdown, and then the lightning came and the rain came. So they ended up finishing that Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, and Oak Hall ended up winning 50-0 in that game very easily. But again, as you said, the weather affecting that, it affected the Buchholz and Vanguard game in Gainesville that Thursday night as well, because it didn't start till about 9:30. They didn't finish till after midnight.
Yeah, I know. In my area, Putnam County, we had 2 games didn't start till after 8 o'clock. St. Augustine, Palaca, which was the game that I was at, and then also Interlochen at Keystone didn't start till 8:15, 8:20.
Yeah, that's right. So. But speaking of that, you were at Palaca and St. Augustine, as it turned out, and I guess that game was played in rain, but it was not too bad. They played that right on time.
Well, actually, it didn't rain at all during the game.
Before the game,
the game, we had downpour. We also had lightning, so a 7 o'clock kick became an 8 o'clock kick.
Right.
And just to kind of give you a rundown of how things went, Palaca bumbled 8 times. They lost 6. Third play of the game, they fumble. Jackson recovers the 10-yard line. It was just that kind of night. Palaca could not hold on to the ball.
And you already have a hard enough time beating St. Augustine. You're going to fumble 8 times. It's just obviously that's not going to work at all. But that has not really been a rivalry lately. I mean, St. Augustine has owned that for 20 years now. Even
well, 12 in a row. 12 in a row, and then they won 21 out of the last 22.
Which is funny, though, now I look at it, because you have the all-time record in here. It's actually 60, 43, and 3, which means until this streak, Palaca led the series. So,
I can remember when it was tied not too long ago.
Well, and St. Augustine for many years wasn't very good. I mean, they kind of started in Joey Wild's tenure, late 90s, early 2000s, when they really started getting good. And Palaca was really good in the 80s, 70s, and 80s.
Well, I
I
wrote a column in the paper that's coming out Thursday about the rivalry, and people in Palaca want the rivalry to end. They're not on the same level. St. Augustine. I said, how quickly we forget that in the 80s and 90s, Palaca won 8 out of 10 in the 80s and 9 out of 10 in the 90s.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't that long ago. Yeah. And but no, that's funny though. That's like, to me, that's like any rival, like Columbia Swanee. It's been dominated by Columbia lately, but Columbia has just been better than Swanee. But I think you keep playing it because it's a big rival, and the teams like to play each other as well. And speaking of that, Columbia won their 13th straight against Swanee, 42-6. So tough way for Swanee to start their season. Columbia's going to get a good test though this week from Coffee County, Georgia, coming down to play them in Lake City on Friday night.
I think one thing that happens with the rivalry, especially when it's small towns, for example, St. Augustine's grown so much. Palaca hasn't. They've never changed. It's the same small town.
Palaca's probably lost population through the years.
Yeah. Palaca's an industrial town. They rely on the 2 big plants there, Georgia Pacific and Seminole.
Right.
And St. Augustine keeps growing and growing. I mean, look how many high schools we have in
St. John's County, and they're supposedly building more of those. I think there's more coming to St. John's County. But yeah, you're right. And they just Beachside opened 3 years ago, Turquoise Creek about 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, it is a little different. St. John's County has been growing immensely, And maybe not so much in the St. Augustine area, but in the northern part of the county, up near Ponte Vedra and near Nocatee and all that. But either way, well, we'll take a look back. First, we'll start in Ocala this week as we take a look back at last week. How about the Trinity Catholic Celtics going to Tampa and winning a 7-6 slugfest in their first game for their new coach?
I was almost going to say Coach Brantley, but he's no longer there.
Yeah. But they play next week too. Forest and Trinity play, but
their coach is doing the right thing because their district is only PK Young. So last year they had 7 losses last year.
They won the district, just by being PK Young, right?
So he's scheduling tough games to get him prepared for the playoffs,
right? And it's helped. I mean, we saw that a couple years ago. They played for the state title with 7 losses. I mean,
that's what it was. Yeah.
Last year they made the postseason. You're right. I think they lost in the first round, but yeah, and this week, and of course we'll talk about it later. But they go to Melbourne this week, Melbourne Central Catholic.
Right.
As you said, not only is it a tough schedule, but it's like a road warrior schedule. They're on the road most of the time as well. Yeah, you can see TVs behind my head here if you're watching online. We were in the back room here before Brady's tonight, the party room they call it. And so you've got US Open on behind me. Looks like Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
So
I believe that's called the Two Bills.
Yes, that is the 30 for 30. Yes, that is the 30 for 30, the two Bills.
So, we are here tonight at B for Brady's.
We are here tonight at B for Brady's again for the second week in a row. And Stark will be here probably for the foreseeable future.
Next week, Corey has a
guest tentatively joining us.
Coach Locken.
Coach Locken.
And they will be getting ready.
They will be getting ready to play
Crescent City next Friday night.
Crescent City,
which has become I wouldn't say newer rival, but they don't play every year typically until recently. That they kind of stopped for a while and they started coming back. But it's a very competitive rivalry.
Stopped for a while.
County rival.
Yeah, it's a county rival, and it's one of the only. Crescent City does play Palaca. They started playing last year. They play again this year. Last year's game, I think, was 35-0 Palaca.
Palaca doesn't play Interlochen, but
Palaca don't play. They used to play in the Kickoff Classic, but they don't play anymore. Speaking of John Brantley,
how about Forest? Yeah, and by the way, they are on. I think they're on a bye this week, and then next week they play Trinity Catholic. So John Brantley will have his already in his second game for Forest, a reunion against Trinity Catholic. They took care of the county rival North Marion, 35-0. That's a good win to start. We'll see if North Marion does struggle, but it's a good win for Forest in their first game under Coach Brantley.
Yeah, it makes you think: is Forest that good or North Marion down right now?
It might be a little of both. And North Marion has been down for a few years, but we'll see. Forest is going to get the test from Trinity Catholic next time out, so that'll be a good way to test that as well. As they have a bye this week. Meanwhile, we talked this week about Denellen heading to Tallahassee to play Florida High, and they gave them a game, 17-14. Denellen came up a little bit short. But what a game that was in Tallahassee. They really played well against Florida High.
I'm surprised by that because Florida High actually had already played a game. They didn't play a kickoff classic. They actually played Godby in a regular season game. Oh. So I didn't think this game was going to be that close.
How could they play a regular season game?
Because Godby and Florida High both lost Gadsden County game when they got disqualified.
So they played week 0, basically.
They petitioned to play their kickoff classic as
a regular season game. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Huh. So I thought because of that, Florida High would have had the kinks out and all the fumbles out, and surprisingly, it was a 17-14 game.
And speaking of Godby, they lost to Rickards, who is going to be at Citizens Field tomorrow night. It's a game we'll talk about later. Taking on East Side Rams. But looking around Marion County, we mentioned Denellen losing, Forest, Trinity Catholic winning. Lecanto beat Westport, lost to Lecanto 21-12. We are 40-0 over PK Young, opening their season with a big win over the Blue Wave.
Yeah, I talked to the Crescent City coach today because they play PK Young Friday night, and that's where I'll be in the home opener. PK Young, coached by Willie Jackson. He told the Main Street Daily News and he told the Gainesville Sun that they were going to run an offense kind of as it is. He was going to make it up as he goes. Well, he's doing the same thing with the defense. Marty, they ran a 6-1 last week. And I had to ask the Crescent City coach, What exactly is
What
that?
exactly is that?
Six
Like six
defensive linemen,
defensive linemen,
one linebacker,
one linebacker,
Right.
four
four
defensive backs.
defensive backs.
So Lake
So
Clear came out in trips, quads, and even though it was 40-0, it was 0-0 almost right before half. So PK Young actually held their own for a little bit until Lake Clear finally woke up.
Yeah, and I know PK Young has been. I don't know how many players PK Young has. I know when we were at Media Day in July, Coach Jackson, Willie Jackson, was out trying to get players. So they
Around 50 right now.
how many?
50.
Yeah, 15.
No, 5-0. 5-0.
50, do they really?
Yeah.
Boy, they got some players in because he was struggling to find them over the summer. But that's tough loss for them to start. Ocala Christian lost to Merritt Island Christian 44-8. St. John Lutheran goes down 70-6 against Hernando Christian. So Hernando Christian, either that's a powerhouse or St. John's going to have a tough year there as well.
Hernando Christian actually has been really good in that 6-man, 8-man football. So
right,
they're a powerhouse.
So that is a look at Ocala. Moving on to Gainesville, the big game last week was actually on a Thursday night, and we talked about this game at length last week. Buchholz and Vanguard. Game was delayed probably nearly 2.5 hours due to lightning and heavy rain. In fact, at one point, Mike Rideout sent me a photo. I was at the Florida soccer game working that night, which was delayed 2 hours as well, but just by lightning. It wasn't any rain there. But he sends me a picture of it's just a downpour. The field's underwater, and I was surprised they get played because we know how Citizens Field can get. But they did. They got out there and played, and it was kind of sloppy. And it was kind of sloppy for Buchholz's offense, really.
I remember reading on Twitter, I think it was Noah Ram, saying that this game, if was delayed again, they would move the game to Vanguard on Friday or Saturday.
That was a possibility
because they couldn't use Citizens because
Eastside's playing.
Eastside was playing.
Yeah, right. They played on Friday, so and that would have been. In fact, that happened a couple of years ago. Gainesville and Vanguard played. They started, I think, at Citizens Field, or they were going to play at Citizens Field. They had to move it to Vanguard on like a Saturday, and Vanguard beat them like 60-0. It was not a. So when Gainesville was going through that really rough patch, and one year Columbia and GHS had the same thing. They played on a Thursday night. The game was delayed at halftime, and they finished it the next night at Columbia because Buchholz was playing at Citizens Field. So yeah, that's happened before.
Speaking of Eastside, they got to win.
Yeah, well, and I think they expected that. They beat Bellevue 30-7. Not a running clock in this game. But a good start for Gator Hoskins' team. They're 1-0. Bellevue still has not won a game in 3 years, so they struggled again to start. But as you said, East Side, big win for them, or good win for them. They're going to have a big game, though, coming up tomorrow night at Citizens Field against Rickards, which we will, again, get into a little bit later. Looking forward to week 2. But that's going to be a little more of a test than Bellevue was this first week.
No doubt.
Season.
And as far as Buchholz goes,
Buchholz goes,
Vero Beach coming in Friday night.
Vero Beach coming in Friday night. That's the Friday night game at Citizens Field.
Vero Beach is a 7A.
Vero Beach is a 7A. I think ranked 4th in 7A. Their state ranked 2 in 6A. So that'll be 2 or 6A. So that'll be a showdown. Last year, Buchholz went to Vero and won that game against the Vero Beach Indians. So that'll be Friday night's game. That'll actually be
you have to love the coach's mentality. Schedule whoever you can, anytime, anywhere. I mean, Buchholz has always been playing a tough traditional schedule, traveling wherever they can.
Yeah. They went to this year. They're going to Manatee because they played them last year here. They're going to Cardinal Newman down in West Palm, who they played here last year as well. So yeah, they are traveling. They got a lot of traveling coming up this season, in those couple of games at least. All right, so Eastside beating Bellevue, Buchholz winning. By the way, this was the game of the week in Gainesville. Chiefland to Williston, it usually is. 2 overtimes. Chiefland ends up holding on 36-35. Went back and forth. It was John Adams, the running back for Chiefland Louisville commit, hit the backfield for a loss, but it broke free for the winning 2-point conversion. Exciting there as Chiefland for the second year in a row beats Williston in the regular season. Last year, Williston beat Chiefland in the playoffs.
I actually watched this clip of this winning play here, and I mean, Wilson knew who was getting the ball. Yeah. They hit him in the backfield. Somehow he was able to break the tackle, break containment, and get free, and just enough hit the pylon to score the winning 2-point conversion.
Yeah, I didn't have a game Friday night. I nearly went to this game, and I kind of wish I had after I heard about it because I decided not to go. I decided just to not go to a game because I'm going to be at Plenty. But this, as usual, these when you get out into the rural areas, these games are always like this. They're competitive. They're fun to watch. And this one was. These are two good teams, though. I think Chiefland's going to be really good with John Adams. Williston will be back. They'll be fine for Coach Pruitt. But that's a good win for Chiefland on the road. First game for their new head coach, Coach Harrell. Meanwhile, again, we are right across the street from this high school again. The blood war once again goes to the Bradford Tornadoes. So she put in here Bradford County, Baker County. There's a certain scoreboard host in Jacksonville, and a hacker. I'll call him out. He calls them Bradford County every time. But we don't call them County, which is funny.
No, and typically my rule is, and maybe it's just my rule, but I go by whatever the sign says. So it doesn't say Clay County High. And I know people that when Clay plays another team, they will call it Clay County High. I'm like, no, it's called Clay High.
Yeah.
And everybody knows them as either Bradford or Bradford County. And just like Baker County. You don't say Baker because there's a Baker on the Panhandle.
Well, and I've heard this so many years now. We've been doing high school football. But, I mean, how many times I've heard Union County called Lake Butler? Because there's a Lake Butler middle school, but they just call it Lake Butler. We're playing Lake Butler. But my favorite is Mayo. Yeah, I always say that. They always say we're playing Mayo. I'm like, are you? Is there a high school that's Mayo? But no, it is funny. But Bradford, back to that again. They dominate their rival Baker County. A shutout, 24. They are called Baker County, by the way, Baker County High School. But Bradford gets the win there. Now they got a road game this week at Danella. It's gonna be tough, but we'll talk about that later as well. But good win for Coach Rogers. And we're his old school, Baker County, to start. That was here in Start last week. Meanwhile, the game, again, we talked about last week. Corey was originally supposed to go to this game, but it ended up not going. Interlochen did shut out Keystone Heights 36-0. First win since 2022 over the Indians, and their first shutout against Keystone in 9 years.
Yeah, I literally found out at 6 o'clock on Friday night. They moved the game from 7:30 to after 8 o'clock. And so my boss, Mark, made the decision for us to switch games. So then I had to basically turn around. I was still in the office, but I had to basically go towards the Alexine and just make it for the Palaca game. But this has been a rivalry dominated by Keystone. They have won like 21 of the last 23 or 24. So for Interlochen to go in there, and let's face it, this Keystone team is down. I mean, they had several people transfer to Bradford. Other people had one transferred to Palaca. A couple other starters decided not to play, or they decided to go play golf. So we knew that potentially, if you're going to get them, this is the year to get them.
And they did, 36-0. So Interlochen, they are 2-0 now. No, that game didn't get finished. That's right, because the Christchurch game. By the way, did they announce if that game's going to be?
No, they're still trying to figure it out.
They're probably going to end up saying like, "Well, we're going to play Monday." All of a sudden, out of nowhere. But
the coach told me a couple of days after the game that it was either going to be September 15th or October 20th.
That's a big difference. But yeah, okay. Yeah. September 15th coming up. So yeah. Okay, so Keystone drops their opener. Meanwhile, we talked a little bit about this. The Old Oak and Bucket rivalry. Columbia opens their season with a 42-6 win at Suwannee in Live Oak, and their 13th straight win in the series over Suwannee. So,
yeah, at one time that was a really competitive rivalry, but
Suwannee won 4 straight state titles in the late 80s.
Right.
Yeah.
And occasionally they'll have some good teams, but they're just not on that level with Columbia the last decade plus.
Yeah, and Suwannee's had some good years, but yeah, they're just not quite. Columbia's a higher classification too, but since Brian Allen got there, Columbia's been pretty much a powerhouse there. But game in Jacksonville. This involves the Gainesville area team. Newberry went to Jacksonville. Boy, they got a big loss, 47-14 against University Christian. As you wrote here, tough loss for Panthers will help them come playoff time. I agree. And what also is going to help them is they get Hawthorne this week at home. So Newberry's schedule is nice to start. But University Christian, impressive win against the Newberry team.
Well, Newberry lost all their studs on defense. They returned a bunch on offense, but they were breaking in a new quarterback. So you knew. I don't think they're going to be down. They're obviously going to contend for a district title with Bradford and Palaca, but you typically see as a state power. They've been down the last couple years too. But what a statement for UC.
Yeah, it really was. You're watching the edition number 2 of the North Florida High School Football Talk Gridiron Report. Marty, Pallman, Corey Davis with you here from Beefo Brady's in Stark. We'll be here till 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock to 10, we'll bring you the college football report. Boy, that's going to be fun. This week is going to be something in college football. Last week, we got some games. Not a lot of great games, but this week should be fun. But
as I call them, we had appetizers last week.
Basically, yeah. That Iowa State-Kansas State game was a close game. Not a great game to watch. But anyway, back to high school football. Other scores from the Gainesville area. Union County loses their opener to Yulee 21-6. For Coach Lamar Waters, his first game. Tough loss for them, and Union probably will bounce back with Keystone Heights this week, but they struggle on offense week one against Yulee. Meanwhile, we talked about this game last week. Congratulations to Coach Brian Fry. Trenton 26, Bell 7. They get the win at Bell and avenge last year's loss. And Bell loses their opener after O'Call. The O'Call game was canceled. So that was a good win for Trenton. And Coach Fry wins his first game.
Kind of surprising, because Bell won last year, which typically Bell doesn't win in that rivalry that often. And so Bell kind of had the momentum after last year. Trenton had a new coach, although he's been successful coaching girls basketball. But they did get new uniforms, a new coach, new locker rooms. So they, things are changing at Trenton.
Yeah, they are. And that's the one thing. I mean, we talked about it last week. He's a first-year football coach, but Brian Fry coached girls basketball for how many years? He won state titles. This guy's a guy who can win at that level. And, we'll see if he can turn them around in football right away. He is a Trenton guy, so he's ready to do that there as well. But they get a win over their rival in week 1. Meanwhile, Fort White, tough loss to Taylor County 20-3. Taylor County looks like they're going to have another good team again in Perry.
Yeah, and then Lafayette took out Dixie County 41 to nothing. Too.
I think Lafayette's going to be pretty good from what we've seen. Meanwhile, Hawthorne beat the Space Shuttle Discovery 42-0. Discovery, that's a team. That's a team near Orlando, Lake Alfred officially. And again, Hawthorne pretty much has to play whoever they can play, and that was their first game against Discovery. This week they go to Newberry. It'll be a little different. Meanwhile, we talked about Gainesville. They went all the way to Naples and beat something called Aubrey Rogers 36-2. So nice win on the road for Coach Ian Scott in week 1. And I think Aubrey Rogers is a pretty new school down in Naples. But
yeah, I think they're only like 2-3 years old, I think.
Yeah, but so GHS went down there and won that game. Again, they have 5 straight road games to start. And then they have 5 home games, starting with Buchholz as a home game for the second part of the season. O'Call, we talked about this. I guess did Bronson score 2?
No, that was a misprint.
Okay. I thought it was 50-0. It was 50-2. We'll get
Bronson. It was 50-0.
Yeah,
Bronson wishes they probably got it safety.
Yeah, O'Call. Again, that game started Thursday night and was finished on Friday. But O'Call finally got their first game in after the week before the game against Bell was canceled. Hamilton County 22, Joshua Christian 0. Is that Josh Wilson Christian? Who's Joshua?
Yeah.
That's the team in Jacksonville, right? Yeah. Hamilton County gets the win there. It was Brantford losing to North Florida Educational Institute in Jacksonville 32-20.
Yeah. I'm glad you got that.
What?
NFEI, you actually know.
Oh, yeah. I know Niffy. We call them Niffy. My granddad and I call them. They're always a good basketball school, but yeah. Don't talk about his football as much. But North Florida Educational Institute in Jacksonville beats Brantford. St. Francis, 8-man football for them. And they go down 34-6 to Leesburg First Academy. And I think it's probably going to be a tough year for them. They don't have a lot of players. Meanwhile, Countryside Christian, also in Gainesville, losing to the Academy of the Lakes 28-7. And Cornerstone Christian lost 54-0 to Lakeside Christian. And that's about all I can tell you about those games. I mean, you can put all the scores on here. I like it. We'll do that every week now. But moving on to Jacksonville, we start with the game of the week. I think we talked about it at length last week, but Corey called this one. White goes about 5 miles to Trinity Christian and beats them 45-28 at Trinity.
And I realize they hardly ever play. They just started recently playing, but this was Ed White's first win over Trinity. I just felt like
first time ever. Yeah.
And like I said, they've just recently started playing.
Right.
They may have played some preseason games, but as far as the regular season, this was the first win. But I just felt like as a bigger school, they have more depth. They probably have like 10 tailbacks, and I'm kind of stunned by the score because they won by 17. But what a start for Ed White.
Yeah, and for Trinity, things don't get much easier this week. They go to Bowles on Friday night, and Bowles went all the way down to South Florida and won. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. But Trinity might be off to an 0-2 start when we look at it this week. I can't remember who Ed White's playing this week. I'm telling you, I thought I'd looked at that. But meanwhile, speaking of rivalries, in Clay County, Fleming Island once again dominates Clay 42-20. Fleming Island continues to own that rivalry recently.
Which is very surprising because Clay, Clay's been down for a couple of years. They've had a coaching change this year, going into this year. But Fleming Island just
also has a coaching change.
Yeah. But they're just the redhead stepchild. They own Clay right now, and they've been on a roll. And even though they had a coaching change, things stay the same.
Yeah, they do stay the same, as you said. So it's an easy win for Fleming Island at home against Clay. Another rivalry, it's kind of a South Duval St. John's rivalry, but Mandarin, I think Mandarin's going to be really good again too. They have no problem with Creekside, 42-20. So Mandarin goes to 1-0, and Mustangs, I think, looking pretty good again.
Creekside has opened up with Bowles and Mandarin so far.
Bowles was their kickoff classic, right?
Right.
Yeah, they play its schedule as well, and Mandarin has another big game this week as well. They're playing Atlantic Coast.
Yeah,
we'll get to. That's a rivalry game as well. Meanwhile, how does this happen? Sandalwood has lost 21 games in a row. How does that happen to that program?
And that was the only reason why I put this in there, because it surprises me how a team that used to dominate Jacksonville, they were one of the premier Gateway Conference schools.
They were the biggest school in Duval County. They were the highest classification almost.
They put out the most Division I prospects.
Right.
And now they've lost 21 in a row. It's just mesmerizing that this has happened.
And this time they dropped the game to Menendez 33-7 in their opener, so not even close. And this week, good news, you go to Rains. It's going to be 22 in a row after Friday night, unfortunately.
No doubt there.
And especially since Rains didn't get to play last week. The Miami Central game got postponed. They're going to be ready to go on Friday night. The Battle of the Bridge, we talked about this game last week at length. We both took Nice to win, and they won 38-28 at Ponte Vedra. And Nice has won 4 of the last 5 now against the Ponte Vedra Sharks.
Yeah, Ponte Vedra has dominated this rivalry. At one time, they'd won 11 in a row. But now Nice has kind of flipped the script and won 4 of the last 5.
Yeah, Nice is again coming off a season last year where they were undefeated through the regular season, lost the second round of the playoffs. But yeah, they're another team to be reckoned with. Meanwhile, Ponte Vedra gets Bartram this week. Nice has got Creekside. That's who it is. So there are 2 more St. Johns County games. Oakleaf, they go on the road and beat Riverside 23-14. Big night for Jordan Price, UAB commit, 2 interceptions, and a go-ahead punt return for a score as Oakleaf wins their opener on the road against the Riverside Generals. Nice Clay Duval matchup there.
Yeah, it was a close game like we expected. We don't know much about both teams. Oakleaf was really good last year. Traditionally, Riverside's been a good team. So, it's a tough loss for Riverside, but it's a game that you can kind of build on for the playoffs.
We talked about this game a little bit already as St. Augustine once again beats Palatka 41-0. 8 fumbles by Palatka. It's the 12th straight win for St. Augustine in the series. They now lead at 60-43-3 and have won 20 of the last 22, outscoring Palatka 519-115. Ouch.
Yeah, when I looked that up from my column, I was like, wow. They basically been averaging giving up 42 points a game against St. Augustine.
They've been outscored by over 400 points.
Yeah.
22. That's tough. The good news for Palatka is it's just one game, and they can turn it around and still have a good season. St. Augustine, we know they're going to be pretty good. Yeah, they're always good. But
so St. Augustine
gets the win there. The St. Johns County team over the Putnam County team, Palatka. Other games we looked at, Atlantic Coast, they go to 1-0. They beat Terry Parker 41-18. They get Mandarin this week. Baldwin wins their opener, no problem, with Inglewood 28-3. And how about Bowles? They go to South Florida last Thursday night, the Broward County Showcase, and beat Monarch 34-15.
That game was never close. I mean, Bowles dominated that game. And, it was Jaden Weatherly, the quarterback who transferred from Bartram Trail. He kind of took over the game. Bowles just got so many Division I prospects that between Bowles and Mandarin, those might be the two best teams in the Jacksonville area.
I agree. I mean, Reigns is always good, but Reigns doesn't always have the D1 guys that Bowles and Mandarin do. But they're really good as well. But the other thing, I don't know if you saw this, but the Florida California games, Aquinas got blown out. Chaminade Madonna got blown out.
1-11 against out-of-state teams this weekend.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
Florida's supposed to have the best football. Who was the only one that won? 1-11? I know. I watched Aquinas get beat by Mater Dei.
Chaminade got killed.
By St. Francis Academy.
West Broward lost. Manatee lost to a team from California.
Yeah.
It was
a rough week.
Yeah, it was definitely shocking.
I think those were all down at Aquinas. It was all in South Florida.
Most of them. Well, Manatee played at home.
Manatee played at home, right?
Yeah.
In Bradenton. But Bowles got the win. They went down there and got a win against the South Florida team, Monarch. Episcopal shuts out Duval Charter 37-0. The Eagles are 1-0. Fernandina Beach, they win their opener 49-6 over Hilliard, a Nassau County rivalry there. No problem with the Flashes.
Pirates are 2-0 right now.
2-0, sorry. And they're in SSAA, right? They played and they won opening week against who they beat opening week?
Montour Christian on the road.
Right. So they beat Hilliard to go to 2-0. Theatric Faison, the Fletcher Senators win their opener 27-13 over Ribault. A Duval County match, Gateway Conference matchup there, I always like to say.
Mm-hmm.
So Fletcher gets the win there. Meanwhile, Providence loses a tough one to Frostproof 17-14. You were saying earlier, Corey, Frostproof's pretty good this year again. And
they were state champions last year in the SSA.
That game was at Frostproof or
Providence, I think.
Was it Providence?
Yeah. I think it was Providence.
Providence? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Andrew Jackson
Tigers
played something called
Kip Old City, beating them 51-0. I've heard of the school.
Well,
this is the old Greyhound track that was on McDuff. They took when the
Greyhound track.
Yes,
used to be Jacksonville. Yeah.
The football stadium is actually the Greyhound track.
Wow, they turned that into Kip Bowl City.
They kept the stands. They put build turf in. It's actually a really nice football field, and then they built the school around it.
Wow. Okay.
So it's off on McDuff and Edgewood area.
They used the old Greyhound stadium. That's funny.
And ironically, their mascot's called the Greyhound.
That makes sense. I get that one. Didn't have such a great opener though against Jackson. The Tigers win 51-0 over against Kip Bowl City. Meanwhile, it's Zarephath Academy going down to Impact Christian 35-0. That's another Jacksonville matchup. Zarephath, by the way, will be at Santa Fe on Friday night in Santa Fe's opener as they were off the first week.
And they get Plaka week 11.
Zarephath?
Yeah, so it doesn't get easy. Yeah.
Meanwhile, our buddy Josh Wilson's got to be happy. Middleburg 58, Westside 14. Although beating Westside, I don't know what that really proves, but Middleburg has been in the postseason the last 2 years, and they win big in week 1 at Westside. And a more important game, it was Orange Park beating Ridgeview 35-7. Now that was fun to see, at least against what's become a rivalry there. And
as I touched on it last week, that rivalry has actually been very competitive, unlike most rivalries.
Yeah. And then this week it's Orange Park and Oakleaf, which has not been competitive lately. Oakleaf's kind of dominated that, but we'll see how Orange Park can stay with them this week. Beachside expected to have a good year, but they go down to Orlando Christian Prep, who's also a really good team, 20-14. That was in Orlando. Close game for Beachside. I'll be seeing Beachside in about 3 weeks. Bishop Kenny will be there on a Thursday night against Beachside. Here's another nice Duval County matchup we always talk about. Paxson 35, Wolfson 12.
Good old Gateway Conference game.
These are now both schools for advanced studies, though. They both become magnet schools in Duval County.
Can't call it the Brain Bowl because that title officially belongs to Stanton and Paxson.
That's right. And Wolfson could get there now, though. You're right. But speaking of Stanton, they even their record got beat week 1 pretty badly. They beat Bishop Snyder 48-20 to go to 101.
Yeah, that was a little surprising as far as the difference in that game because they won by 28 points. That's 4 touchdowns.
Right. St. Joseph, St. Augustine, all over Cedar Creek Christian, 57-0. They're always a pretty good team too, St. Joseph. Meanwhile, Bartram Trail took the trip all the way down to Hillsborough County and lost their opener to Sumner 27-17. Sumner's in Riverview. So tough loss to start. They'll get a chance to even their record against Ponte Vedra at St. Johns County rivalry Friday night. And then speaking of St. Johns County, Sequoia Creek wins their opener 24-0 over the now no longer led by Marty Lee First Coast Bucks.
Oh, come on, say it right.
Marty Lee.
Marty Lee.
Who's that? That's right, because he was retired finally. He said he was going to retire like 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah, he's been saying it for a while, and he finally did.
Marty Lee. Yeah, so Sequoia Creek wins that game 24-0. That's another game I'll see with Bishop Kenny. We'll have Sequoia Creek next week.
They're one of my sleeper teams this year. They've been building, and I got to see them over the summer. They played a 7-on-7 game in Orange Park, and man, there was a lot of those kids out there. I saw them at Dairy Queen, and they after tearing up Orange Park, they went over to Dairy Queen and got them a blizzard
at the Dairy Queen in Orange Park
on Wells Road.
Yeah. On Wells Road, yeah. That's right.
Because the one on Blaney no longer exists.
Well, there's one on Kingsley too. You know.
Or Kingsley, that's what I meant. Not Wells
That's
Road.
right. Yeah, that one's been around. That looks newer, but it's been around a while. Down towards 17. Yeah. Corey and I grew up in Orange Park. We can talk about these things like we know what we're talking about. Speaking of that, again, you are watching the North Florida High School Football Gridiron Report. High School Gridiron Report. Marty Pallman, Corey Davis with you from B4 Brady's in Stark. We've been talking about Ocala, Gainesville, and Jacksonville. We've been looking back at week 1. Now we'll look ahead to this week, week 2. And there will be games tomorrow night, Thursday night, and not surprisingly, a Thursday night game in Gainesville. Usually there is at Citizens Field. And this time, it's going to be East Side hosting Rickards. Both teams are 1-0. Rickards beating Godby last week after being down 21 in that game.
Yeah, that surprised me when I saw that little nugget. I'm like, wow, you get down 21, your chances of coming back and winning are pretty slim. But kudos to the Raiders for winning that game.
Yeah, and now they get to play East Side, who, not surprisingly, expected to beat Bellevue. They did last week. But this will be more of a test. Gator Hoskins was not happy with the performance, even though they won by 23. I think he was expecting a running clock. I think most people were, but he thought they were very sloppy. So the Rams will have to pick that up if they're going to go to 2-0. And that'll be tomorrow night from Citizens Field. And meanwhile, again, live television here.
Sorry, I got distracted. I started thinking about something.
All right.
Because we're getting close to our picks, and I was like, oh, we got to talk about our picks.
Keystone Heights and Union County, both teams 0-1 this week. So somebody will get a win, and got to think Union County may bounce back in that game after the loss to Yulee. Keystone losing to Interlochen. Trinity Catholic and Melbourne Central Catholic. And again, Trinity Catholic winning at Tampa Catholic. This is going to be an even bigger road test for the Celtics as you put playoff primer as Melbourne Central Catholic opened up with a 35-7 win over Somerset Academy.
Yeah, we just talked about this earlier. I mean, what a schedule they're playing. They went on the road last week and beat – who did they beat? Tampa Catholic.
Tampa Catholic.
Now they get right back on the road and go to Melbourne Central Catholic.
Yeah.
I mean, what a schedule they're playing.
Yeah, I know. And they do have a home game next week, but it's against Forest. That'll be their home opener. So they'll see their old coach coming in for their home opener. Santa Fe, they were off last week. They will open on Friday night in Alachua against Zarephath Academy. Ernest Graham's first game as the head coach of Santa Fe. He was a coach before down in North Fort Myers and in the Fort Myers area where he came from. But this will be his first game as head coach at Santa Fe.
Yeah, I'm curious about Santa Fe because since Ernest took over, their social media game they've been blowing it up. I mean, there's videos on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
There's hype videos. They brought coaches in to talk about this. May not surprise you, but one coach said, we are 2-38. I mean, remember when Santa Fe in the 90s?
2-37 since 2021, yeah, I think.
I mean, Santa Fe used to be in the 90s, used to be a state title contender.
They won 2 state titles in the 90s.
And if it wasn't for bowls, they probably would have 2 more.
And in fact, as soon as recently as 10 years ago, they played Reigns in the state semifinals. So, yeah, it's a program that's been proud through the years. It's just been a rough period. But, yeah, I think Ernest Graham can turn that around at Santa Fe. And they'll get a win this week. So.
And I said, if this is not a running clock game, I'll be shocked as much as they've been talking and hyping up their team.
Well, they're gonna find their real challenge is going to come when they play Newberry Speaking of which, is that
Well, they played Plaka before that.
that's
Week
right.
4.
Well, I don't. Okay, yeah, that's right. They played because he used to play Newberry opening week, but yeah. Bell and Franklin County this week. Bell come up the loss to Trenton, and Landon Williams bounced back. Franklin County beat Milton Central 31-0. This is an SSAA Atlantic League game.
Yeah. This is a game Bell has to have if they want to get back in the playoffs and do some damage.
You know what? I didn't see. Oh, there it is. We'll talk about this. I see it in the picks, but I was going to talk about it a little more. Hawthorne and Newberry on Friday night.
Well, because I didn't want to double dip. So some of the games we talk about in the picks.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to talk about both because there aren't as many good games during the week.
Well, last year's game went to overtime. Hawthorne won a thriller, and I guess my question is, can Newberry bounce back after that game against University Christian, and can Hawthorne show they're still at an elite level, which I think they are. But, I mean, this is going to be a good test for both teams.
I remember when they played, they weren't scheduled to play, but because of COVID, both teams lost the game. So they ended up scheduling each other during COVID. And what a game it turned out to be.
Well, one year they had the game they were supposed to play, and Hawthorne had already scheduled. They scheduled twice in the same week or something. So they were supposed to play Orlando Christian Prep. So Hawthorne went down there and played instead. It's kind of odd. But, yeah, that happened like probably 3 years ago. On to Jacksonville, another rivalry game this week for Mandarin. They'll host Atlantic Coast. Atlantic Coast 1-0 as well. Mandarin leads the annual rivalry 10-4. They are, I mean, until Atlantic Coast High School was built, Mandarin was Mandarin had been the most recent Duval County school that had opened. And they've become pretty much big rivalries, although the schools aren't that far apart anyway.
Well, and until Atlantic Coast opened, Mandarin's rival besides Sandalwood, and Sandalwood was a rival because they always play each other every year, even though they're not really close to each other. But Mandarin's big rival was Wolfson.
Yeah.
But Wolfson was terrible every year.
Well,
so
that's
it wasn't
true.
really a rival.
Because Wilson was the closest school to them, you're right. But, yeah, that's not going to be a rivalry. Wilson's struggled in football as long as I can remember. But these two teams, somebody will go to 2-0, Atlantic Coast and Mandarin on Friday night. First game for Ribault and their new school, new stadium. And it's a north side showdown against Andrew Jackson. Ribault coming out the loss to Fletcher.
Ribault got a brand new school, got a brand new football stadium, got brand new field turf. This will be a big game because – they're showcasing their home field now.
Ribault's the alma mater of my parents and most of my family. And Andrew Jackson was my grandmother went to Andrew Jackson because, it's been around forever. But that is a big rivalry. Jackson and Ribault coming up on Friday. Menendez and St. Augustine, the Battle of St. Augustine. And it hasn't been because St. Augustine's won 22 of the 23 meetings all time against Menendez.
And the one win, Menendez was loaded. They had Kenny Logan. And I cannot think of the other guy's name, but they won like 66-26.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Kenny, who was it?
It was something to Bose. He went to Mandarin, too.
Right.
And then he went to FAU.
Menendez had a couple of really good years there. But as you said, though, this will be at St. Augustine. So the Jackets looking to go 2-0 against Menendez. I always think it's funny Menendez is considered St. Augustine because I don't think that it's really in St. Augustine where that school's located. It's really, really far south. It's more towards Crescent Beach, to the beach, but anyway.
Right.
So that game, that's another St. Johns County rivalry. And we talked a little bit earlier. Reigns had their opener against Miami Central canceled due to a schedule mix-up. So they'll open their season Friday night against Sandalwood, who again has lost 21 in a row. And I don't know if there's a whole lot to say about that game.
No, it's just, I'm just blown away by how terrible Sandalwood is. And, you're going up against a state title contender Reigns. So, yeah, it'll go to 22.
Yeah, it'll go to 22. You're right. And then a game we also talked a little bit about earlier, back to Clay County, Orange Park and Oak Leaf. Oak Leaf beating Riverside week 1 on the road. This is their home opener. Orange Park won at home against Ridgeview, but this will be a little bit of a step up in competition for the Raiders. And this is a series that has been dominated by Oak Leaf recently.
I would love for Orange Park to get back and start beating Oak Leaf more frequently, but it's been dominated by Oak Leaf.
Yeah, Oak Leaf's been, of course, another team last year went to the region final and nearly beat Buchholz in the postseason for being knocked out there. Reminder, you are watching the North Florida High School Gridiron Report on North Florida Sports Talk. Marty Pallman, along with Corey Davis here from Beef Brady's and Start. Coming up at 9 o'clock, we'll have the College Football Gridiron Report as we look forward to the opening weekend of college football here, really starting tomorrow night. But right now, we're going to talk some more high school football till 9, and it is time for the Pick Six. I'm going to get some music for this.
And let's get back. Let's talk about last week. Marty, you went 8-4 in high school.
Yeah.
And I went 9-3.
Yeah, I knew I lost Trenton Bell. That was one game I lost.
So I got a 1-game lead going into this week.
I think I had Trinity too, and you had Ed White. Yeah, I know that. So,
and then the Newberry. Well, we both lost Newberry.
Huh.
Yeah, Trinity Ed White was the difference.
Yeah, I took Bell. You took Trenton.
We both took Bell.
Oh, we both took Bell.
Ed White Trinity was the difference.
Yeah. So I figured as much, but that's okay. Long way to go.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, we'll start in Gainesville, Ocala. Again, this will be the Friday night game on 106.9 I Am Country in Gainesville with Mike Rideout and Hank Roan. Buchholz hosting Vero Beach. Vero Beach, the Indians winning their opener. Buchholz getting by Vanguard. Buchholz went to Vero and won this game last year, and now they'll get a return trip at Citizens Field Friday night.
If you can go to Vero Beach and win that game, and typically Vero Beach has been a really good team and a consistent playoff team,
mm-hmm.
I think Buchholz wins at home, because if you can go on the road and win, we can win at home too.
There's a question mark with the way they started last week, because Justin Williams had a big game, but Andrew Whittemore struggled. I mean, it's a sophomore. It was his first start. They didn't have Cale McGriff. They don't have DJ Hicks either, which is another loss. But Buchholz's defense was really good. So they just need to get that offense moving again, which they usually do. But I'm with you. I think Buchholz is going to win that game at home against Vero Beach. They can win on the road. They can win it at home as well.
All right. Both for Buchholz.
Here's a Georgia-Florida matchup. We talked a little bit about it earlier on Friday night. Coffee County, who's 1-1, travels to Columbia, who won their opener against Swanee. That game in Lake City on Friday night.
Coffee County is coming off a loss to my second hometown, Ware County Gators.
Ware County.
They called that the border war.
Yeah.
There's actually a trophy involved.
This was a former Robbie Pruitt. That's where he used to coach, Coffee County.
Yeah. Coffee County is traditionally really good in Georgia. They'll be competing for a state title like always. I like Coffee County in this game.
Not so fast, my friend. Although I don't know honestly, I don't know if I want to do this really, but I'm going to say Columbia wins that game at home. They were impressive week 1 against Swanee. I know this is probably a little bit different competition, but I'll take Columbia to win that game on Friday night in Lake City. They're always pretty tough there at home, and Tiger Stadium. Sorry, Memorial Stadium, the old stadium in Lake City. I'll take the Tigers.
All right.
Baker County, they start 0-1 with a loss to Bradford. They're going to go to Chiefland. That's an interesting matchup. Chiefland winning their opener against Williston on Friday night.
You got to think, is this going to be a letdown because you're just coming off a big one over your rival, Williston? But after that, I think Chiefland's got some mojo now after that big win. And I know Baker lost to Bradford, but I'm going to go with Chiefland.
I actually agree with you on that. I think Chiefland's going to take the momentum for beating their rival Williston and take it back home, their home opener. John Adams he's really good. I mean, Louisville commit. Baker County did score week 1 against Bradford. I know it was Bradford, but still, back-to-back weeks, Baker County tough road games, and I'll take Chiefland as well.
Okay.
Hawthorne and Newberry. We talked a little bit about that game. Hawthorne winning their opener against Discovery. Newberry losing at University Christian. This game will be at Newberry Friday night. And last year, Hawthorne won this game in overtime at Hawthorne.
This is a toss-up here. Newberry lost some good players on defense. Offense, they returned Caleb Woods and their T1 receiver. The offense I'm not concerned about, but the defense right now, and Hawthorne is not a team you want to play if you have a question marks on your defense. I'm going with Hawthorne.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Newberry it's gonna be tough for them for a little while. They had a lot to replace, and it seems like Hawthorne does kind of find ways to win these games. I agree with you. I'll take Hawthorne as well, even though it's on the road. I like the Hornets to win. Vanguard losing their opener to Buchholz, but close. They'll travel to Lake Mineola, who won their opener, 1-0. So this game will be down in Lake County Friday night.
Lake Mineola has been down the last couple of years. They've gone through some coaching changes. Vanguard's coming off a tough loss, a close loss to Buchholz. Just because the fact that Lake Mineola has been struggling lately, I'm going to go with Hawthorne. Vanguard in this game.
It's funny because remember, you and Joshua Wilson and I went down there one year, saw them beat St. Augustine in a thriller to go to the state championship game, which they then lost pretty badly to, I think, Miami Central.
Probably, yeah.
Miami, one of those Miami teams. But, yeah, I mean, Lake Mineola was doing really well for a while. As you said, they've been a little bit down lately, but they played for a state title about 4 years ago. But I'm with you on this one. I think Vanguard's going to turn this around. They nearly beat Buchholz week 1. They had a chance to tie the game late, missed a 2-point conversion. So I'll take Vanguard, even though it's on the road. I like the Knights as well. All right, Swanee lost to Columbia week 1. They travel to Mayo to play Mayo. Well, Fayette Hornets, who won their opener against Dixie County 40-0.
Having covered football and all sports in that area for a couple of years with the Swanee Democrat, I know how big this game is. They play each other in multiple sports. Football, this is kind of rarity because of the difference of classifications between Lafayette's got the athletes. Swanee's been down. But you got to go to bigger school because depth's going to be an issue in this game. Swanee's got more athletes. I feel like perhaps Swanee bounce back.
Yeah, I say this feels like it would be a rivalry game, even though Lafayette plays in the rural classification. I think Swanee is 3A or 3A or 2A. But you know what? I'm gonna take Lafayette. I think they're gonna win this game at home, and I think that they'll go to 2-0 because that was an impressive win week 1 against the against Dixie County. So that leads us to Jacksonville. That's our pick 6 for Gainesville, Ocala. And
we're down to these last 6 games.
Philip Crutchfield chiming in the Dukes of Mayo versus Swaneeville. Thank you. That's about right. Yep.
Got Bartram Trail and Ponte Vedra. Both teams are coming off a loss Friday. This game's in Ponte Vedra, a tough place to play. I got to go with Bartram Trail, who went on the road down there in Tampa area, came off a tough loss.
Well, yeah, that's tough because you're right. Both teams losing their openers. I think Bartram's kind of dominated Ponte Vedra though too in this rivalry, but I think I'm with you on that one. Actually, I think Bartram Trail will even their record. They're going to be pretty good. I think Ponte Vedra. Another home game, but the first 2 games are Nice and Bartram. It's pretty tough. So,
I'll take the
Bears. The Bears.
Two
more St. Johns County teams. Creekside losing opener to Mandarin. They'll be at Nice, who beat Ponte Vedra 0-1 against 1-0. This game at Nice on Friday night.
As much as I want to pick Creekside, I mean, you're coming off Bowles and Mandarin. The schedule, and now you got Nice. I mean, the schedule is brutal to open the season, even though the Bowles game didn't count. But Nice is loaded. I got to go with Nice.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a tough stretch for Creekside to start, but I think Nice is really good again, and I will also take the Nice Panthers at home to win that game. Another Duval Clay County matchup. Riverside, who lost to Oakleaf week 1, will travel to Fleming Island Friday night. Fleming Island again win the opener over Clay 0-1 against 1-0.
Ooh, tough one here. Riverside and Fleming Island. That's a lot of athletes on the field there.
I think Riverside's going to be pretty good. It's just, it's a tough start to play Oakleaf and Fleming back to back.
Yeah, we will know if they are the kings of Clay County if they can win this game, even though they lost to Oakleaf. I got to go with Fleming. It's hard to go against Coach McPherson.
Yeah, that's right. Tom McPherson, he's back as the head coach. I think they're going to do really well with him after the many years at Ridgeview, taking them in the postseason, coach at Orange Park. Most recently, the defensive coordinator at Bishop Kenny really kind of turned them around too. But I'm with you too. I think Fleming Island will win that game at home and go to 2-0. Well, Fletcher, here's another Gateway Conference matchup. Fletcher won their opener against Ribault. They travel not far up the road to Arlington to take on the Terry Parker Braves, who are 0-1. They dropped their opening game last week. And that came.
Parker lost to Atlantic Coast.
Atlantic Coast. This game will be at Terry Parker.
It's hard to go against C4. I'm going with the Senators.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I think Fletcher's going to be pretty good again. Parker probably will struggle. They struggled week 1. I'll take Fletcher as well. Here's a game I'll be at Friday night. Bishop Kenny had a bye week 1, so they will open their season at home against University Christian, who had an impressive win over Newberry in the opening week. These two teams played a couple years ago. The last game of the season, Bishop Kenny won late. The year before that, UC won at home. So this could become a rivalry. These schools are only a few miles apart, these two private schools.
I'm always concerned when one team had a bye week 1, because they barely played a preseason game because of the weather. I don't know if they got the full 4 quarters in against Swanee.
Oh, okay. I think they played the whole. I'm talking to Coach Krause tomorrow. I'll ask him, but
but my concerns are Bishop Kenny has not really played. They didn't play last week. They may or may have not played a whole 4 quarters against Swanee. UC opened up with a win against Newberry, a really solid team.
Yeah.
I know it's at Bishop Kenny, but I'm going to go with UC.
Not so fast, my friend. I'm going to take. Okay, you can call me Oliver. I'm going to take Bishop Kenny.
As the voice of Bishop Kenny, I would expect you to pick Bishop Kenny.
I feel like I'm contractually obligated, but no, I think they're going to win this game. I actually think the week off will help, maybe. But UC had a tough one against Newberry, but it's going to be a good game. But I'll take Bishop Kenny at home to win the opener against University Christian. There, it's going to be close though. That could go either way. Finally, our final game, and this will also be Friday night. Bowles Trinity. This has become a nice rivalry. Trinity Christian and Bowles. The Trinity Christian trying to avoid going 0-2 after the loss to Ed White. And Bowles, we mentioned them, they're looking pretty good after the win against Monarch weekend.
Yeah, this used to be a really fun, pretty competitive rivalry, but Bowles is on a whole nother level with all.
It seems like it. Trinity is not. They used to be able to beat Bowles pretty regularly.
Yeah, it seems like their recruiting has been down a little bit for them. They're not getting the 5-star kids that they normally get, and Bowles apparently is taking them all. Like I said, up there with Mandarin and Reigns, and maybe St. Augustine. They're one of the best teams in the city, and right. I think they prove it Friday night. Yeah,
I'll see them in about 2 weeks. Bishop Kenny will host Bowles. Always a rivalry game. It's going to be tough to beat them this year, but I'm with you too. I take Bowles in that one as well at home to beat Trinity Christian. So that's it. Look at this. We're right about 9 o'clock. How about that?
Perfect. On the dot.
Right on the dot. So did we only have like 1 or 2 differences, didn't we?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that works out next week when we're back here for our 3rd edition of the North Florida High School Gridiron Report for North Florida Sports Talk. He's Corey Davis. I'm Marty Pallman. I want to thank Phil Crutchfield, who helped us set up this up before. And I want to thank B4 Brady's here in Start for once again allowing us to use the back room here. Last week we were on the front porch and can't see any police cars tonight. Weather's going on out there on 301. But it's also much cooler in here than it was last week. We were burning up last week out there. But anyway, thanks to B4 Brady's again. Coming up, we'll have the college football Gridiron report in just a few moments as we take a look at the opening weekend of college football. That's it. You've been watching the North Florida High School Gridiron Report. For Corey Davis, I'm Marty Pallman. So long. We'll talk to you next Wednesday night, 8 to 9 here from B4 Brady's and Start. Good night.